There is an entire industry built around a single idea. Build something once, get paid for it forever. Create a product, a system, a piece of content, an investment portfolio, and then step back and watch the money arrive while you sleep, while you travel, while you spend time with the people you love, while you do anything other than work. The idea is intoxicating. It is also, in the form it is most commonly sold, a significant misrepresentation of how income generation actually works at every level of wealth. The passive income industry, and it is genuinely an industry with its own content creators, course sellers, coaches, platforms, and communities, generates billions of dollars annually. The irony embedded in that fact is not subtle once you notice it. The people making the most money from the concept of passive income are almost exclusively making it by actively selling information about passive income to people who want to make passive income. The product is the dream, the customer is the dream, and the transaction requires the customer to remain convinced that the dream is achievable in the form it is being sold, which creates a structural incentive for the sellers to overstate the passivity and understate the prerequisites of every strategy they teach. I want to be direct about something before going further. Passive income is real, genuinely, meaningfully real. There are people generating income every month from assets they built or acquired years ago, and that income requires a fraction of the active time and energy that a conventional job requires. The goal of building income streams that become less demanding of your active time as they mature is a legitimate and achievable financial objective. I'm not here to tell you it does not exist. What I'm here to tell you is that the version being sold online, the version that implies you can generate meaningful income with minimal upfront investment of time, capital, or expertise, is not the version that actually exists in practice. And understanding the gap between the marketed version and the real version is the difference between building something that genuinely works over time and spending years buying courses, trying strategies, and wondering why the results never match the promise. Let us go through the major categories one by one and look at what the real numbers actually say. Dividend investing is the category most commonly cited as genuinely passive, and the citation is accurate. Once you have a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks or funds, the dividends arrive on their scheduled payment dates without requiring any action on your part. You do not need to show up, produce anything, manage anyone, or make ongoing decisions. The income is as close to truly passive as anything in the financial world gets. Here's the number that the passive income content almost never leads with. The average dividend yield on a broadly diversified portfolio of dividend-paying stocks is approximately 1.5% to 2% annually. To generate $1,000 per month in dividend income, which is $12,000 per year, at a 2% yield, you need $600,000 invested. To generate $2,000 per month, you need $1.2 million. To generate $5,000 per month, you need $3 million. These are not discouraging numbers in the context of a long-term wealth-building strategy. Building a portfolio of that size over a career of consistent investing is entirely achievable for people who start early and invest consistently. But it is a radically different conversation than what most passive income content implies, which is that dividend investing is a path to meaningful monthly income for someone who is starting from a modest financial position. It is not. It is a destination that requires significant capital accumulation before the passive income component becomes meaningful. The passive income is real. The prerequisite capital is also real, and it takes years of active work and disciplined saving to accumulate. Real estate rental income occupies a category that passive income content loves because the concept is intuitive and the success stories are compelling. Buy a property, rent it out, collect the checks. The reality of rental income is more accurately described as semi-passive at best and actively demanding at worst, depending on how it is managed and what the properties require. Professional property management companies, which handle tenant screening, lease execution, maintenance coordination, rent collection, and vacancy management on behalf of landlords charge between 8 and 12% of monthly gross rent for their services. On a property renting for $2,000 per month, the management fee is between $160 and $240 per month. That fee does not eliminate the landlord's involvement. It reduces it. The landlord still makes decisions about major repairs, capital improvements, refinancing, and eventual sale. They still need to evaluate the performance of the property manager and replace them if performance is inadequate. They still need to review financial statements, maintain insurance, manage tax filings related to the property, and stay aware of local market conditions that affect their investment. Every successful rental property investor I've spoken with or studied describes the activity as a part-time job in the best case and a significant ongoing operational commitment in more demanding scenarios. The income is real. The equity building is real. The tax advantages are real and substantial. The characterization of it as passive in the sense of requiring minimal ongoing attention is not accurate in most cases. Digital products represent the category with the highest theoretical potential for genuine scalability and the widest gap between the marketed version and the reality for most people who attempt it. The theoretical case for digital products is straightforward. An online course, a software tool, an ebook, a template library, or any other digitally delivered product can be sold to an unlimited number of customers with no meaningful increase in marginal cost. The work of creating the product is done once. Every subsequent sale is revenue with no corresponding production cost. If you can build a product that people want and find a reliable way to reach the people who want it, the economics become genuinely compelling over time. The reality for most digital product creators is considerably more complicated. Building a digital product that generates consistent sales without ongoing active promotion is extremely rare. The majority of successful digital product businesses require continuous content creation to maintain audience growth, active email marketing to convert that audience into buyers, regular product updates to remain competitive and relevant, customer support infrastructure to handle purchaser questions and issues, and ongoing platform and technology management. These activities are not passive. They are a business, a potentially very good business with excellent economics and significant flexibility compared to a conventional job, but a business that requires active, ongoing work to sustain. The creators who generate what looks from the outside, like effortless passive income from digital products, have almost universally spent between 2 and 5 years of active, often unpaid or minimally compensated work building the audience, refining the product, testing the marketing, and establishing the systems that make the later stage look easy. The passive phase, to the extent it exists, is the reward for years of active phase work that was not passive at all. Now here's the reframe that I think is more useful than the passive income framing entirely. The question that drives most passive income seeking is, how do I make money while I sleep? That question, while understandable, leads people towards strategies that promise minimal effort and produce minimal results. The more useful question is, how do I build assets instead of just trading my time for income? An asset is something that generates value beyond the direct hours you invest in it. A business with well-designed systems is an asset. A portfolio of financial investments is an asset. Intellectual property with established distribution is an asset. Real estate with professional management is an asset. The distinction between income and assets is the actual underlying concept that passive income content is trying to communicate, expressed in a way that obscures the real work involved in building assets rather than illuminating it. The people who achieve what gets called passive income, the ones whose results are real and not inflated for marketing purposes, almost always traveled one of two paths to get there. The first path is capital accumulation through active income, followed by systematic deployment of that capital into income-generating assets. They earned significantly more than they spent for a period of years, accumulated substantial capital, and then put that capital to work in ways that generated returns without requiring their active labor. The passive income came after the active capital building, not instead of it. The second path is audience and system building through years of active creative or entrepreneurial work until the audience was large enough and the systems were robust enough that the business could generate revenue with significantly less of their personal time. The passive phase came after the active phase, not instead of it. In both cases, the sequence is the same. Active work first. Asset building second. Reduce time requirements third. The mistake that most passive income seekers make is trying to access the third stage without completing the first two. The courses that sell the dream almost never lead with a sequence because the sequence is not exciting enough to generate sales. Active work for years, followed by eventual passive income, is not a compelling headline. Neither is it inaccurate. Here is the honest framework for building income that becomes genuinely less demanding of your active time as it matures. First, identify which category of asset is appropriate for your current situation. If you have accumulated significant capital through your career or business, deploying that capital into dividend-producing investments, real estate, or private credit funds is the appropriate path. The passive income is real and accessible once the capital exists. If you have not yet accumulated significant capital, capital deployment is not your immediate path. Your path is maximizing your active income and your savings rate to build the capital that makes deployment possible. If you have a specific expertise, a specific audience, or a specific creative capability that translates into a digital product, building and selling that product is a legitimate path to income that scales beyond your direct time investment. But approach it as a business, not as a passive income scheme. Give it the time, the investment, and the professional seriousness that any business deserves. Measure success over years, not weeks. If real estate appeals to you, approach it as a semi-passive investment that requires ongoing attention and management, not a fully passive one. Build your understanding of local markets, financing structures, and operational requirements before committing capital. Start with one property and learn everything about operating it well before expanding. Second, build one asset at a time rather than diversifying prematurely across multiple strategies. The most common failure pattern among passive income seekers is spreading their time in limited capital across 5 or 6 different strategies simultaneously, doing none of them well enough to generate meaningful results, and concluding after 18 months of mediocre outcomes that passive income does not work. It works. It requires depth of focus in fewer places, not breadth of dabbling across many. Third, measure your progress in terms of hours required per dollar generated rather than in terms of absolute income. A business that generates $5,000 per month and requires 40 hours per week of your time is a job. A business that generates $5,000 per month and requires 10 hours per week of your time is an asset. A portfolio that generates $3,000 per month and requires 30 minutes of quarterly rebalancing is genuinely passive income. The trajectory you are building toward is fewer hours required per dollar generated as the system matures. That trajectory takes time to establish and requires patience that the passive income industry is not incentivized to encourage. The dream of making money without trading your time for it is not wrong. It's one of the most legitimate and achievable financial objectives available to people who are willing to understand what is actually required to get there. The timeline is longer than the marketing suggests. The prerequisites are more substantial than the courses admit. The work in the early stages is more active than the framing implies. And the outcome, for people who follow the real path rather than the marketed shortcut, is genuinely worth the effort it takes to build. Next week on Quiet Rich, I'm covering the inflation story that most personal finance content gets completely wrong, and the specific tools that protect your money from purchasing power erosion in ways that almost nobody is using despite being available to every American investor. Subscribe so you don't miss it. New videos every Tuesday and Friday.